Hello, hello, welcome back to another review. Before I get into this review, I have a little update on the Metro Boomin album, A Futuristic Summer. After the disinterest in the album, I'll say, Metro went on Twitter and started just like having a whole, not a breakdown, but just like was tweeting a lot of stuff, and I just want to say a few of my favorites. I think my personal favorite is a lot of y'all get no bitches and it shows, which is a really funny thing to say when people are criticizing your album. If you started listening to rap music in 2017, then you might want to sit this one out. Which is just such a funny line to have, dude. If you ever had to write a number down, period, then you might want to sit this one out. I just think it's such a bad look on him for doing that because to his credit, I don't think he's ever released an album that has been bad, right? Like his production has usually been really good. So I don't think he's used to getting criticism that isn't good on an album. So I think maybe a little bit of an ego probably that he just always thinks that his stuff is going to be good and can't really have that realization that maybe he put out a bad album. But enough about Metro Boomin, because we're talking about NBA Youngboy, who released an album titled Masa, or Make America Slime Again, on July 25th. Kind of went under my radar, so I'm not really the biggest NBA Youngboy fan myself. But this album got recommended to me, and I thought I'd give it a listen, that I'd review it. If you don't know what happened, Youngboy was arrested. He's a convicted felon already. I don't remember exactly what it is. But he got caught possessing an illegal firearm and was convicted for that. So he was going to serve, I think, like a little over a year in prison, and then like 5 years of probation time. But Trump pardoned him, so he got out a lot earlier than it was intended to. And then I think he started working on this album, or he had already been working on this album while in prison. One of the two, I'm not sure. But either way, this album is not really political in any way. I'll get more into that because Masa is obviously like a nod to MAGA, Make America Great Again, from Trump, and obviously he probably has respect for him because he did, pardon him. So that makes sense. This album is an hour and 33 minutes long with 30 tracks. So I'm going to go about this review sort of like I did a Futuristic Summer, and I'm going to go over songs that I thought were good, songs that I thought were bad, and then I'm going to do kind of the review of the album as a whole, my thoughts on it. Song I really liked was Games of War. I thought it really had a really good beat to it. I was surprised that it was good. I really liked the line where he's like, "It's a Newport I'm smoking on." I don't know. Newports are a funny cigarette to me for some reason. And yeah, I was just surprised at how good this track was because I've listened to one other Youngboy album. I'll put some text on the screen or something because I don't remember the name of it right now. But it wasn't that great. There were a few songs I liked off of it, but I didn't think it was anything special. And this song I thought was better than that whole album I listened to. And I really liked like the marching in the background. I thought it got me a little hype, if I'm being completely honest. And I think this was genuinely a good song. I think Games of War is definitely a song worth checking out on the album. Ready is a surprisingly pleasant song off of this. This is where like the vibes of this album really change. It's a much more vulnerable song, and it's where this album kind of takes a more vulnerable turn because the tracks before I'm Ready are a little egotistical for sure. It's kind of Youngboy bragging, and then this changes to him kind of being a little critical of himself and critical of his actions and kind of, talking about bettering himself and stuff. But that happens on the rest of the album. But yeah, a lot more vulnerable than I would expect from Youngboy. And I really like where he picks up the pace and starts like rapping faster compared to the rest of the song where he's just kind of like singing a little slowly. And I think it's a really good contrast, especially in what he's talking about on this song. After is in the midst of this whole kind of like self-realization part, and it has an amazing piano, it has an amazing guitar on the beat. I like the sentiment of this song because it's a song about like, being a better person for the person you love and those around you, which I think is a little funny coming from Youngboy because he has so many children with so many women. Like, what girl was he talking about when he was, talking about being better for them? Was he talking about all of them? Just one? Just a few? Just a handful? I don't know. But if you remove that context, that sentiment is really cool and not something I would expect from Youngboy. Cash Shit has arguably the best beat on this album by far. It literally gave me the stank face. If You Need Me has a very like somber tone to it, and it has an amazing sample, and I think this has like decent singing from him and like pretty decent rapping as well. It's just it's an odd song. Again, that one album that I listened to kind of gave me a feel for what I thought Youngboy, would do, and this like flipped it. This whole album flipped it on its head in a way. A little spoiler, but I think If You Need Me is a track you should check out. Boxer has like very similar horns that Metro uses on A Futuristic Summer a lot, and it gave me flashbacks. And I was gonna be really critical of this song, but I think that this song is pretty good. If I can't lie, it's got really good vibes. He's got a really good flow on it. I think it'd be a good aux song. I feel like Kickboxer is what Metro was almost trying to do. Maybe, I don't know. Some of the bad songs. XXX. This song started off with a guitar solo of the Star Spangled Banner, and I thought that this was going to be sort of like a nod to Kendrick Lamar's song XXX, which is very critical of America and has kind of like a commentary on American culture. And he didn't do that at all. Um, the hook on this song is okay when you first hear it. It's just him going sex and violence, kind of over and over. But it gets so annoying because he does it like 3 or 4 times. This is also the one song, the only song where he mentions Trump, and he kind of mentions Trump in a good light. Take that as you will, whatever you want, whatever your stance is. I don't give two fucking shits. I don't think the song is that great, if I'm being honest, and I feel like he could have done way more, and I wish that he had done a commentary on America, because I think this song would have been really good, and it would have made sense, because it's titled XXX, the nod to Kendrick's Off the Am, I don't know. Cold World is a song that is ruined by Youngboy's singing. He, on a few tracks, he has this sort of like auto tune, really overbearing like singing, and it just sounds so bad. It literally hurt my ears because it's so loud, it's so auto tuned, it does not sound great at all. This Cold Word would be okay because it has an okay beat. Just Youngboy sounds so awful on it, and there's a few tracks where he does this. Self Part 2, he says, I came in myself. What the fuck? That is a crazy bar. In the song Diesel, it's got a really funky beat I kind of like, but I really don't like Youngboy's flow in this at all. The flow is just so off that it ruins the song for me. And Youngboy, his flow isn't always on beat, but for some reason this song in particular really irked me. And it doesn't always irk me, but this one in particular really just like pissed me off. Finally, Top Tings. This song just sounds weird. It literally sounds unfinished. Like it doesn't. He sounds like a little muffled. It literally just doesn't sound like he was done like editing the song at all. It hurt my ears to listen to this one, and it sucks that this was the final song on the album. But as a whole, this album was a pleasant surprise. I wasn't expecting to like this as much as I did, and I did not go over every song that I liked because I liked a lot more than I put in this video. Youngboy is not a lyrical genius. He is very much there for the vibes, but I think he really tried to switch that around here, and I think he was lyrically better. And I think the biggest takeaway that I got out of this album is that instead of talking about like the quote unquote stereotypical kind of like rap things like drugs, sex, violence, which he does, and every rapper kind of will touch over that, I feel like, in one way or another, usually at some point on an album. But he he goes into his own life in like a deeper way, and I think that that's what makes this album stand out a lot more than it could have if he just, kept rapping about kind of his ego, because the beginning of this album is a bit egotistical. But he talks about how his actions have affected those around him. You know what I mean? Like he went to prison, that affects his children, that affects like the mothers of his children. And he talks about how going to prison has changed his life because he's gone before, but this time he really realized that he's kind of fucked up. You know what I mean? Because he wants to be a role model for his children. He wants to teach them good life advice. He wants to like teach them how to live, and he wants to be like a respectable person. And he mentions that in one of the songs. I just forget which one because I didn't write it down. But he finally has looked himself in a mirror, and he's like, okay, I need to be a better person. I love the freedom that I have. I don't want to be locked up again. And I have, there's more than just me trying to like act hard. I have kids to worry about now. And I think that's kind of the biggest takeaway. And I think that he did a good job of conveying that to the listener through the album. And I always love when albums have, a deeper meaning because it adds a bit more substance. Because vibes can only carry something so hard and for so long. Gun to my head, if I had to rate this album, I would give it a 6.5 out of 10. I, again, very pleasantly surprised by it. There were a lot of tracks that I added to my playlist. I think that the vibes were here, and again, I really like the deeper stuff that Youngboy brought to this album and giving this album more meaning than usual. Hope he continues to kind of put this deeper meaning into his songs, and I feel like for his next project, his 20 millionth and first project, that maybe he dives deeper into his own brain and his own thoughts and really how this has really affected him even more, and maybe he could do his own weird version of Damn and kind of like how he thinks his life could have panned out if he kept going down, this road and kept going to prison, and maybe going to the future and how he thinks his life will be now that he's got this changed mindset or something. I don't know. He could add. He could be really, creative with his next project, considering the life experience that he has now and what he's learned. That's it from me. If you liked the review, maybe give it a little like, maybe subscribe if you enjoyed this. I got a lot of other reviews as well if you want to check those out. If you like the gameplay in the background, I've been releasing a Marvel Rivals Grind to GM series that it's okay, I'm not the best Rivals player, but whatever. What are your thoughts on this album? How did you like it? Do you agree with my points? Do you disagree? Are there things that you found that I didn't find within the album? Let me know in the comments if you want to. I'm not going to force you to. Anyways, bye-bye.